This question can only be asked in Africa, not in any other region of this world. Aid is more political than anything else. For me, when I'm watching on television and I find our leaders who should have been working together all along to address these problems that commonly affect their countries, wait until they are invited to go to Europe to sit there and just... In fact, the image it gives is that we are not there to even address these problems. We are there for a photo opportunity. We are happy to sit there in Paris with the President of France and address and just talk about addressing problems.
Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channels once more. Team Creation is my name. Kindly, if you are watching this video for the first time, remember to subscribe, like, share and comment. Guys, in today's video is about Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame is the president of Rwanda. He has come out and he has expressed himself to join Ibrahim Traore. He has now been a champion. He has now been a Pan-Africanism. And we as Team Ibrahim Traore welcome back to Burkina Faso. We welcome back to our team of liberation, our team of revolution. Guys, let's watch this video until the end, and then I'll come back with more reaction.
And first of all, turn to President Kagame. You've been listening keenly to what has been said from the panel. Would you care to comment on any of the issues that have been brought on the table before we go back to dig a little bit deeper? But you've been listening very carefully on these questions that have been raised here. Yes.
Well, thank you.
Why don't you sit down, sir?
I've been sitting down for a long time. I want to rest from that. But let me say, I followed what was being discussed for the short time I've been here. And I think there are good points being made about conflicts, the causes, and possible way forward in resolving them. But of course, what is very common is there will be old conflicts and old causes of the conflicts. There will also be new kinds of conflicts, as has been said, and possibly new causes as well. But what has been mentioned by the panelists that is important, the constant should be the kind of politics, the kind of leadership, the governance in place so that these old or emerging causes or conflicts can be resolved. This is key. And another way to look at it also and raise a question which we must answer is, for so long, we've discussed conflicts, causes of conflicts, and actually have quite a good idea as to what is needed for such a conflicts to be resolved. Now, the question is, if we have analyzed conflicts and the causes, if we really have a good idea what all this constitutes, then what? So it comes, therefore, to the point that the leaders, therefore, should be there to deal with these problems. And here I'm not even proposing that there is one leader who can resolve conflicts alone, or that there is even a silver bullet for these conflicts. Therefore, it's the management of all these processes and what we have identified to be the root causes. But of course, when it comes to Africa, I'm sure many people in this audience will have made the same observations. I think we must take responsibility and accept our failures in dealing with these matters. For example, relating to what President Obasanjo has just said, on the case of Boko Haram, or you can use that for many other cases. For me, when I'm watching on television, and I find our leaders who should have been working together all along to address these problems that commonly affect their countries, wait until they are invited to go to Europe to sit there and just, you know, it's like they are made to sit down and address their problems. Why does anybody wait for that? What image does it even give about us, about Africa? In fact, the image it gives is that we are not there to even address these problems. We are there for a photo opportunity. We are happy to sit there in Paris with the President of France and address and just talk about addressing problems. It doesn't make sense that our leaders cannot get themselves together to address problems affecting our people. It doesn't make sense. Of course, I'm saying this painfully. On the other hand, that well, I look forward for the time when I can be like the two former presidents. I think they are more free to say things than I do. Being where they are and me being where I am. So I tend to remain with some reservations about what I have to say because, but I think there is that serious problem. African leaders, we don't need to be invited anywhere to go and address our problems without first inviting ourselves to come together to tell each other the actual truth that we must tell each other about our serious problems. So, I mean, again, look at the problem of South Sudan, indeed. The first problem was about this country and the people there wanting to be independent. They got independence. Now that turned into a problem. How? So you have one war being fought, waged to be independent, then you have to fight another when you have achieved independence. Just fighting among themselves. Why? So some of these underlying root causes should and could have been addressed by the leaders there. Whatever happened, whoever was wrong, that's not the issue. It is still the responsibility of leaders. If they can't resolve the matters themselves, why not? Why not call upon neighbors to say, come and help? We have a problem here. Maybe there's a problem between the president and the vice president. And if they can't resolve it, and each one thinks he's the one who is right and the other is wrong, and they are going to divide the army and government and everybody else to go on either side and start fighting, well, I think in between the time that starts and when it actually happens, something can be done. But it has to be leaders to work towards that and avoid the catastrophe that, like we are seeing or have seen or that has already happened in South Sudan. But of course, the unfortunate part is that the most majority who suffer are the
Ordinary
innocent people who have nothing to do with it. Women, children, and even many men are innocent in that situation. So this is, I'm not giving answers, probably I'm raising more questions than, or adding to others that have been raised. So for the time being, let me stop here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Allow me the privilege to be unconventional in this discussion. You started with a very provocative question, which really was, I think, intended to have us thinking beyond what we are used to. And in this case, I think the panelists have gone along the lines of things we are used to. And I start with the point you made when you were asking the question of preference between the markets and the aid. And I think there was grossing over the problem, and people saying, you see, we need both, and it was as if there was none that was better than the other, and so on and so forth. This is a blunder. Number one, first of all, this question can only be asked in Africa, not in any other region of this world. Which in itself tells you that there is something wrong even with the way people are arguing the case. Because it is now a given that aid and capital markets, are the same. You see, it's not, you can't say you don't need this. I mean, first, aid is more political than anything else. Markets are less political, markets are neutral. Look at the rest of the world. The only thing you're talking about, why you highlight aid, sometimes that to the point that if you say anything about aid, it may be used against you. You see, this is the only place we can be having this conversation. But at the same time, the panelist from Tanzania has made a good point. He illustrated all kinds of wealth lying all over the place from Africa and being recycled to us in a form of aid and then, in the end telling you, you must be humble, you must keep quiet. Don't say some of these things. I mean, what are we talking about here, honestly?
Mr. President, do you want to come take over the moderation, sir?
So, I think I have to come in early a little bit before the others so that maybe they try and change their arguments a little bit and move in another direction. So, yes, let's not be diplomatic, let's not gloss over issues, let's not, markets are markets. We know what they have for us, outweighing what we have in aid by thousands of times, please. So why do we leave something here that we know is more important for us by any measure and account? And then we start saying, no, but let's not even make a comparison. You see, we need both, Okay, so I rest my case.
Thank you very much. My name is Ansoy from the BBC. I have a quick question for President Kagame. As chair of the Commonwealth, I wonder what your priority will be, especially in terms of upholding the values of democracy and human rights, given that there's been a lot of scrutiny on your country and the record of your government, and critics have been pointing out the number of opposition leaders and journalists who are in prison. I wonder what your leadership of this organization is going to look like in the face of that.
Right. I think checking of facts is a serious problem with the very institutions we should have relied on to inform the public, the general public, the world, about some of these facts. Or whether the facts themselves or the interpretation of some of the things that actually happen. Now, let me start with the issue of values. Who defines the values? Or who doesn't actually have values? When people talk about values sometimes, there's one part of the world that has assumed the sole responsibility and the monopoly of defining values. So the rest of us have no values. We've just to keep learning from these ones who define the values. And by the way, the danger also is, it doesn't matter how long you take learning, you will never qualify. You will just always be branded somebody who has no values or who comes from a place where there are no values. So I want to put this case clear. Those from the north who always assume where BBC comes from, who always think they are the face of values, the rest have to follow. It's a big mistake. It's not true. We have values too. We here in Rwanda, in Africa, we do. No question about it. Second, there are some of these problems we have had in our continent, in Rwanda. Those from the north who define or want to define values have been part and parcel of these problems we have been facing. Some of them have actually been the cause of the problems we face. But at the same time, like the genocide here that took place here in Rwanda, where 1 million people over were killed. Well, I remember, if your memory serves you well too, I'm not inventing anything. The debate that went on at the UN, it was like, you know, these developed rich countries, those who define values, simply took it like, these are just Africans killing each other. These debates were in the open. But you think that is true? You think the divide that actually led to this genocide was just a creation of Rwandans? Not the people from the north who actually divided this country? Told people to think of themselves as belonging to one ethnic group and the other to think as belonging to another ethnic group, and therefore they should kill each other. Not only are they different, but they should kill each other. Would you believe that? Would you tell me that the 20 million people, this is documented by other people, not by me, who were killed in the Congo, were killed by other Congolese in the old days of King Leopold? And you think all that just disappeared in a moment? Then you had the savages coming over and taking over their own countries and killing each other? And then the others assume the higher ground, they are up there in the north, and keep pointing fingers at those of us and think we have no values and we just are there to, we don't respect freedoms, we don't respect human rights. Sure, you think so? BBC, you think so? You take time, you broadcast, and from morning to evening, this is literally just abusing people. You're abusing Rwandans, you're abusing Africans, values. What values do you know, my dear sister, on behalf of BBC? So, I want to assure you, there is nobody in the BBC or anywhere else thereabout who would be holding values better than we do here in Rwanda. Except if we just want to cover up the mistakes of the same people who want to define these values for us. Or really tragic mistakes of things they have caused. So, when you are saying that, you may tell somebody else, people who don't have time to think or who don't have a history where they have struggled with these complications, yes, they will. But here, those of us who have faced what we did, who have gone through what we did, we take our responsibility. Of course, genocide could not have happened just on the hands of others who brought it to us. No. We, Rwandans, have a responsibility. We have our share of the blame for it. But there are others who should take responsibility for that. So I just want to let you know that these issues of upholding values and so on, as far as I'm concerned, as I know, as far as Rwandans are concerned, we don't need any lessons from BBC or from anyone. I tell you this with firm conviction. So, democracy or people in prison you're talking about, there is nobody in Rwanda who is in prison that should not be there, because you have a justice system that is actually functional and is fair. Let me tell you something instead. Actually, there are people who are not in prison who should be there. There are no people who are in prison that shouldn't be there, but there are people who are not in prison who actually should be there. And I'll explain to you if you want. I know, for example, I've been seeing journalists writing all kinds of things. Take somebody, praise her or him, and make them champions of all kinds of things. That's fine. I wish these people are making them champions of their own situations, if they wanted them, but not of our situations. And I give you some details. And what I meant when I said what I said. Take an example who is always written about, and people who have been here even during this Kagame and They were visiting, there's a woman called Ingabire, Victoire, whom BBC and others want to always sing about being the face of the opposition. Okay, fine. And this is one I was referring to. She's not in prison now, but should be in prison now. She was in prison, she committed a crime for which she was tried in the court of law. She was actually sentenced and imprisoned. The government, the president, under the prerogative of the masses, president has that powers. Actually, this woman was released from prison before she served her full sentence. And it wasn't because she was not guilty or whatever. I'll tell you something else which shows double standards, which lead to these things you were asking. She was tried on the basis of evidence that was provided by European countries working with our own justice system. You see, it wasn't just done here. It was done between us and some European countries who provided evidence, corroborating with the evidence we had, and us on the basis of which she was tried and sentenced and put in prison. Now, but some people decide to make that person an angel of freedom and democracy and something like that. Where does it come from? But she's out there. She's not in prison. But this I'm saying, she should actually be in prison if we hadn't just forgiven her. Okay, we forgive her to be out of prison so that you can pick her and pump her and praise her. Okay, that's fine. If that serves, but I wish it was serving something good for the country. That's okay. Then you have another person whom the very people I was referring to picked, praised, made her a celebrity, him a celebrity, you know, made the hero of, made him a savior of, but I don't know even what he saved. Now, when he faces justice, there is evidence, irrefutable evidence. He was tried in the court of law publicly. Nobody questions the facts on which the evidence is based. But then say, no, you see, this one is, a critic of the president. No, you first answer these facts before you talk about your things that you want to use. And in fact, this person committed this crime with many others. There are about 21 people in the same case, all of them who pleaded guilty and are implicating this person, and this person was at one time their leader. These are people who were armed, waged violence against families of Rwandans. People were lost their lives. There are victims there. And then there's one, this person, it comes from America, from Europe, and that this person, and in fact, what is interesting, they come and say, this person, we are not saying he's innocent, but he should be released. And then we ask them, say, okay, if you think he should be released, how about these others who are co-accused with this person, who are also in prison? So in other words, they are saying, this person is special. We've made him special, so you should not question that. And then we say, okay, fine. How about the victims? The very people, families that lost their people on the hands of this person. They can't answer that, but they keep insisting. So anyway, let me try to cut. It was a loaded question, so I'm trying to grapple with how to cut the answer short. But so the basis on which these judgments are made is not necessarily right. It's not correct. So I will let you make a decision at some point what to believe or what you should be making other people believe. But I know by my answer in whatever way, maybe you're already framing a completely different story about what I said, or giving it a frame in which
Guys, hope you have watched a very powerful message from Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame, he has really declared to him as the support to Ibrahim Traore, but he has not yet publicly declared, but according to what he's telling us, he's showing that he is now as his agenda and Ibrahim Traore is just the same, because he is now against imperialism. He is now against this liberation, because he has said that these people, they have been using us for so long time. They have been destabilized our government. He has ended up and said about the Leopold, who was the king of Congo when he was killed. So he has said that we Africa, we don't manufacture any guns, and we have a lot of resources which can manufacture guns, but our resources is being used outside their country. So he has said that we Africa, we don't have anywhere where we can manufacture guns, and he has asked the journalists, where is this guns come from? You can just think how these people are really using us, because a lot of guns is being supplied in Africa, a lot of guns being circulating in Africa, and yet we don't have guns. We don't manufacture any guns here. A guns is being manufactured outside Africa. But when now you go to Congo, when now you go to Haiti, a lot of guns is there, is being used by these guns to fight we as Africa. So these people are the one who are the separatists, as they like disunity. We Africa, they fear that we Africa, when we united, they will never defeat us. So the only thing that they can do is just to divide us by using what? By supplying guns to this Western country and other this African countries, so to destabilize us, so that they can divide us, so that you cannot united. So they normally use the tactics of divide and rule. So that is what Kagame is meaning. If you have not understand what is meaning, he is meaning that these people normally use a rule like divide and rule. So they divide us, they use us to divide. So they supply a lot of guns, so that they normally tarnish our name to other countries, that Africa is not safe. So people now fear to visit Africa because of peace, and we know that we are peaceful. And I can ask you one question, and let me think with you together. Why are why we don't have any direct flight from Caribbean to Africa? Why? All flight, when you want to go Jamaica, normally pass through United States, connect to Jamaica. When you want to go any other country, you must pass through United States. These people, they normally brainwash us. They normally brainwash that Jamaica is not safe. They normally brainwash Caribbean that Africa is not the same. They can now start using what is now happening. When Africa listen about what's now happening in Haiti, they said that Caribbean is not the same. Now they mention when Congo is not peace, they have no any peace, they mention Africa. So these people has been sponsoring these guns, and after sponsoring those guns, they now come out and take our officers who was black to go and fight those guns. Like now, Kenya is now in Haiti because of fighting for that gang. So those people are the one who are causing these people to happen to us. And Kagame has come out and has told them the reality. We must be respected as we as Africa, because enough is enough. Guys, you have been using us for so long. We know we are the you are the one who killed Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, and Muhammad Gaddafi, and we kept quiet. So this time round, we will not keep quiet. We will speak, we will stand up, and we must liberate our country from colonialism. We want to be ruled by us. We don't want to be ruled with you guys. You guys who have caused a lot of problem in we as Africa and also in Caribbean. We don't have anywhere to hide. We don't have democracy. We don't have freedom. When we go to your country, you don't respect us. You just disrespect us. But when you come to our country, you want to be respected. You want to be treated like a king. Your military is being in Africa. They are just controlling us. What are they doing in Africa? Now, when you want to travel to United States or any other this West country, you will need a visa. But when these people come to our country, they don't need a visa. So this shows that these people are being using us for bad character, and our leaders are silent. They want a leader who can be used as a pupil. So our leader fear them. They fear these colonialism, and Traore has shown us that this can be done. So guys, let's just stand and united we as Africa, because our leaders now coming out. Julius Malema is there now. Kagame is there. Ibrahim Traore is there. They are just united so that we can liberate our country from this colonialism. Thank you so much. Kindly, if you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel, kindly subscribe, like, share, and comment. I'll come back later with more updates.